Hello, welcome to Toronto Ultra's Merk and Maven podcast. We have another superb episode coming your way, and a little bit different this time around. We've had some players on recently. It's been a whole hell of a lot of fun chatting through history and current events and everything. But now we've got a coach and an absolute hottie. JP, how you doing?
Pretty good. Thank you guys for having me.
Of course, dude.
I was not expecting that type of compliment to start out the show, but thank you.
Yeah, there's something wrong with me, yeah.
Oh, JP, don't playoffs start tonight? NHL playoffs?
Yeah. I mean, the Devils start playing tomorrow, and
oh, okay. We got you on a good night then. We got you on a good night.
That's gonna be a good series, so I'm super hyped for that. It's been a while since we've been in there.
Maeve, you typically start off our podcast with an insane story about your life, and I think another one happened, didn't it, today?
This one's going to be a little bit longer, and I'll try and keep it
short and sweet,
summarized as best I can. But JP, I had a day, right? So I got done streaming, went upstairs, and Rokkr, our German short hair pointer, like he'll counter surf, but like only really like on the edges of the counters. Like we don't leave food out, stuff like that.
Did you call it counter surfing?
Like counter surfing, yeah. It's a term for dogs. Like counter surfing.
I never heard that.
Yeah, like when they're constantly like trying to get at stuff. Like we've tried to train, we've tried to use like stuff on the surface, stop it. Anyway, he just does it. But he won't go like to the deep like back part of it, right? Like he could leap onto if he wanted to, but he doesn't do that. But usually if like no one's downstairs, I'll put Copper in his kennel just because he's an idiot. So Cat was gone, and Kelly, I guess, thought I was only going upstairs for a moment, but I was going up like 20, 30 minutes. And then she went up to take a call, and Copper got left out. I go downstairs 20 minutes later, and there's like, I see all three Pomeranians on the couch just going at these plastic bags on the couch. And I'm like, what is it? And it looked like it was like treats or food or something. I'm like, oh, well, fuck. So I texted Kat, and she's like, no, that was actually 3 weeks of dog supplements.
Oh,
so I'm like, oh, fuck. Because, vitamin poisoning can be a very real thing. And I wasn't worried at first because you would think Copper, he's a maniac, the big dog, he would eat most of it. I'm not worried about him because his weight, he's a big dog. But like the little Poms, you never know. So I ended up having to get exactly what was in them. The number of pills, the brand. I called Pet Poison Control. I was on the phone with them for an hour as they like broke it all down. They said they didn't think you had anything to worry about. The only problem would be if like the tiniest dog, Kev, who weighs like 6 pounds, if like he ate like all of it. Because like vitamin D, I guess there'd be enough with his weight that could be a problem. And we didn't think that was the case, but they're like, if you want to be safe, what you need to do is induce vomiting. And I was like,
right.
Okay.
Ooh.
So Kat picked up hydrogen peroxide. I had to give like one tablespoon to one, two to another, something like that, and force these little fuckers to run around the house throwing up everywhere.
How'd that go? Successful?
Messy?
Weirdly, the one that we had to give to, like they said they don't do after 15 minutes. Like most of them vomited right away, but little Kev, little 6 pound guy, we had to give him more. And then he threw up. But yes, they all threw up. Everything's out. Everyone's fine.
Let's go.
But that's what I was doing for hours this afternoon before this. Yeah, it was
amazing. Your life never stops. And by the way, we didn't have an episode last week. We apologize. I do. My life's been insane lately, so everything's all good on my end. Wife's healthy, but yeah, we're sorry about that. We're back into it. Before we get into it with JP,
sorry, fuck you guys, dude.
Before we get into it, JP, Major 5 tickets just went on sale as well. The Ultra Major, you can get your tickets. The entire floor is sold out. So 4-day bowl passes are available. Ticketmaster.ca because Canada to check those out. And then today was Champs was announced in Vegas. I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest Vegas person. Doesn't really, I don't know, fancy me that way, but it should be a good time.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's the first time outside of LA, right?
Well, what we had LA,
Columbus, right?
Oh, we did have Columbus.
I guess for CDL, it's really the first time. Yeah. It's not really far away.
If this was like college, Clint, like Vegas, oh dude, yes. Like I used to love to gamble. It's a lot of fun. I just don't drink anymore. Gambling doesn't appeal to me. It's gonna be a blast. Vegas is cool, but I think I'd be more into it if I like wanted to go throw some money around. But I'm gonna try not to do that.
Yeah.
So Champs is now June 15th through the 18th. My birthday, so that'll be fun.
Ooh.
Yeah, we'll have some fun there.
40?
Yeah, 45 actually.
God, you look good.
Yeah, let's get into the good stuff though. JP, what what do we call? Are you a coach, an analyst now? What do
I
you
don't
know?
even know at this point. I mean, my job is to help them perform at the highest level at any
Okay.
point, and aid with that in any way that I could. So, analyst, coach, whatever you want to call me at that point, it's
Data
the same
connoisseur.
basic. Yeah, it's the same basic work that I do anyway. So, either's
Perfect.
fine.
Well, we'll get into that in a little bit. If you guys didn't know, JP worked with us at the CWL. He was our stats guy, like our first stats guy. So Clinton and I love him a lot. We go back very long. But I think
Yeah, we really do.
the big question the first question we have for you, JP, is, I mean, how'd you get into esports or COD? Was it you just a fan, or yes? How was that process?
So I was a player for a while, but just like a casual player. And it originated in, I think my cousin showed me the COD 3 campaign, and I played that. And then I got the COD 4 for like Christmas once the Xbox came out. Played it casually, and then funny enough, I got introduced into like esports with the you probably remember this, Joe, but the Call of Community MW3 tournament. It was
Okay.
hosted by like Aviator or someone. I think it was
Oh
Aviator.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was like
that was when I was-
YouTubers, pros play together. Is that
yeah,
right?
exactly. It was like content
Yeah.
creators because I was always like watching YouTube videos, content creators during that time, and they blended it with some pro players. So that's where I heard the names of like OpTic and Envy. And that led to me watching the Gamescom. It was like a 3v3 pre Black Ops 2 tournament where they
Yep,
were
I was in that.
showcasing the game, and that was when I first like saw what like esports was for Call of Duty. Obviously, it wasn't super competitive. It was 3v3, just pre-game, but that's where I recognized all the names like you, Cap, Rambo. And then I watched all of Black Ops 2 and then started getting into like the COD stat stuff during Ghosts.
Awesome. That's crazy. So those events actually work. I was always curious.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking the same thing like nowadays, but I was like, man, that actually got me into it in the first place. So
It's legit the whole purpose of it. That's good to hear.
Yeah, it's great to hear. Great to hear. So then you start working. Do you start working at MLG? Like, were you an intern?
yeah, I was like an intern. So it was funny. It was actually I
Hey, look at that picture,
stats
JP.
before. Yeah, so
Yeah. Site was before that though, wasn't it? I thought.
yeah, the
Before
site
you
was
joined them,
before
right?
that. So
Okay.
that was during Ghost, and that was basically MLG Puckett at the time. Chris Puckett, my codfather, he he posted like a Reddit post basically asking for people to start tracking stats because that's when they were originally starting that pro league for Ghost, the season 1, which was like the first like pro league. And they needed people to track stats for it because no one had ever been tracking stuff before that. So it was like me, a group of like 9 other guys thrown into a Skype call from all over, Canada, US, Europe. And we were just basically getting screenshots, tracking anything that we could manually, putting it onto the site. Nowadays, all the stuff that I do is basically automatic from the code that I write, but that was like the old days where everything was super manual and just grinding Excel sheets. And then, yeah, I ended up talking with Puckett, and I was like, I live like, in New York, so I can visit the NYC MLG offices at any point. He's like, yo, let me tour you around the offices one day. And that was the freshman break of my college, my freshman college year, the first break, the winter break. He was like, yeah, you want to come in? So I went in, and then he's like, yeah, you want to intern for us this winter? I was like, hell yeah. Like, I don't have anything else to do this winter break. So I was helping them write like the esports report with like Matt, Max Mall, you probably remember him, Ben. And yeah, it was just a really good entry point for me because from there I was able to get a connection with all the MLG guys, Ryan Thompson, Adam, and help me get out to like those events and start working on the back end, like broadcast side, and providing any type of stats related stuff to either you guys, the casters, analyst desk, or the actual feed that everyone sees with graphics wise.
Well, we're gonna dive into it over the course of this at some point, but like for those that viewers probably have no idea what a fucking shit show stats has been for like Call of Duty esports. The biggest fucking fuck fest. Like
Yeah.
we were at first there was just nothing. We had nothing. like
We had
nowadays
JP
we'll go
and the
through,
9 guys in a Skype call. That's what we had.
Yeah, we'll like go through the years and stuff, but like we had no like back end data coming from the actual game. Like it was all just manual, and it was like there'd be inaccuracies sometimes. Like you'd miss a game or wouldn't get a screenshot. Like it was just a shit show, and you guys were trying your hardest, but like there was only so much you could do. Like just the process of it was a nightmare. But the one thing I want to clarify: were you doing the Codstat site before the tweet and like Puckett stuff, or it started then?
No, it completely started then.
Oh, so I thought it was before.
Yeah, that was one of the best decisions of my life, of actually responding to that Reddit post and being like, "Yo, I'm down to do this," because I don't know where I'd be, probably in law school or something at that point. So pretty glad I responded to that Reddit post and got in that call.
I wanted to know if you were like, you started that site because you were frustrated because of lack of stats, or you just wanted entry into esports. Like I thought it started that way, not like, oh, I saw Puckett tweet, jumped on that bitch, and that was a step in.
I realized there was no stats too, and I was always like interested in that Moneyball-esque type, stats stuff in terms of regular sports. So I was like, I'm watching the matches anyways, so I might as well help track it anyways too, because I'm watching it, so might as well do something while I'm doing it, and maybe it'll start something. So yeah, it was all passion project from that point onwards, and we weren't making money off the site. It was just like anyone who wanted to do it did it, and it really helped me out in terms of getting the connection there, and then end up obviously working for a team once the CDL started.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you weren't making shit for a while. I mean, my first year commentating, I had to pay for flights, hotel. No one paid me anything. Like I was dead. It was a shit show. I think a lot of people that got involved early on, like it wasn't all that established. Like you had to take like a leap of faith and like YOLO. And like
I was cashing out, bro. I was cashing out in League Ops, bro. What are you talking about?
well, you were like in as a player, so it's like a little.
I was not.
It's a little different, but like I feel like a lot of people, man, you just had to. Like I it's a conversation constantly, like that whole like, should you do work for free or should you not? Like, is it not dignifying to do that? But like, I don't know. Sometimes you just gotta take a leap, man, and bet on yourself and hope it works out. And I'm sure there were maybe some financially stressful years early on, but it's cool to see you've gotten to where you are.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, it was just like a cool gig that I could do on the weekends in college. So I would basically try to schedule my classes so they weren't on Friday, fly Thursday night in, and then the tournament would be Friday to Sunday, leave either Sunday night or Monday morning, and usually it would work out. So I was like super blessed to actually even have the opportunity, and then I was able to make it work somehow. So it was a super cool like side gig that I was able to do during that.
I did the same thing when I was playing. My classes Tuesday, Thursday. I put like all 5 of them. I'd have like a 10-hour day of classes, so I could fly Friday and Monday. That was always it, or like Thursday night. You were talking about that. I guess like, okay, going from what's the difference for you from going from MLG, CWL, sort of working with us to teams? Like how is that work shifted? Like what you're focusing on?
Oh, I mean, it's completely different. I mean, obviously, when I was working on the back end, it was always relaying, basic stats, KD, captures, hill time, all that type of stuff, just relaying you guys records, things like that. But once you actually settle in and work with a team, it's almost like a complete shift. And my first year when I was working for New York, I had to really get accustomed to working within a scrim because I'd never been in a scrim before. So I'd never even realized what that, entailed. Obviously I knew the players and I knew the coaches and I knew the game to a certain extent, but I realized quickly, like, I don't know Call of Duty at all. Like looking at it based on like a viewer's perspective, that was like super casual and, watching a lot, but not super, ingrained in what was going on. And then
like what was important, what wasn't.
Exactly. That first month, like first 2 months, I barely even said anything in the call. Like I would talk here and there, but I just wanted to basically, gather all of this as if I was like a sponge, just soak in all the information and then gain the trust of the players so that I can actually maybe provide any type of insights that I could to them. Because, they have to get that respect to me because I had never even, touched a scrim before, but they knew I was like a stats guy. So I wanted to really get in, in that way and actually provide some type of worth and talk in terms of like what they would in terms of like, what's a good play, what's not a good play, should you have hit this out, and we're breaking this way, but should we break this way? Would it be more beneficial for us to do X, Y, and Z? That type of stuff. So it's super more detailed. Obviously, I still track similar things,
Basics.
the basics, but it's more advanced now. You're tracking, hill change, you're tracking breaks, hardpoint holds. There's so much that I don't even want to go into because it's just super in depth.
Dork.
What do you say?
You said dork. No, I'm just kidding.
But
so you're telling me you have like, I mean, let's just have an example. All right, we have a hotel hardpoint, right? You have a spreadsheet that shows here's how we do P1, right? Or here's how we do P2. Maybe X amount of times we've gotten 30 plus seconds, or we were successfully broken, or we broke the hill 10 out of 15 times. Like, we're talking that in depth.
Yeah. So it's basically like a dashboard that I built for them. So it's not as nerdy as a spreadsheet, because you don't want to show players numbers,
Sure.
because they're not going to really take that into account too much. And but if you show them a bunch of cool looking graphs, maybe it'll be ingrained in their minds a little bit more. But so anytime I'll usually take 2 weeks of data and be like, for the past 2 weeks, this is what's going on here. We'll compare it to our opponents. We're breaking 70% on this hill, but our opponents are breaking 90%. Like, what are we doing differently than our opponents? But is that translating to a better rotation on the next hill for us? So is it actually beneficial? Things like that, where you can actually create like super good insights. And then, what I've recently started doing to try and make it even more in depth is, pairing that with, a lot of video research. So it's like, we can watch our last 10 P2s and see what's going wrong. And like, we can compare that to what teams are doing, what we're doing in matches. Is it the same? Like, what's going on? Just to give you like a little bit more of a tool to work with, to try and see, what we can do to help benefit the team as much as possible.
You went like an entirely kind of different direction than I thought. Like, that would be the difficult. What was your major in school again? Like, what was your? Were you into like numbers and math and stats and shit before that tweet?
Labor relations. I was going to go to law school and maybe help them develop a union or something.
So I thought, like, I don't know who out there is like dealt with math majors or like really numbers oriented people. A lot of times, like, dude, their brains just wired differently. Like, they're not a lot of times not like super like people oriented. Like, they're very like data oriented. And like, right. I thought if you were like that, and I didn't really think you were, because we like hung out and like, you're not like this like super mega like stat dork, even though you are. But like,
yeah, thanks.
I thought the hardest part might be like when you're doing the website, right? Just dealing with numbers. When you're dealing with MLG, like, give us these numbers, just dealing with numbers. Like, when you go to a team, it's a people thing now.
Yeah.
Like, now it's relationships and dealing with people and how to receive information from them, how to give them information properly. Everybody's fucking different. And I know some people that in a role like you that are a little more numbers oriented have struggled with that, because it's like, it's not their thing a lot of times when you're like a super like stats person. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever talked to like some of the stats you work with. Some of those guys are like, dude, they talk to me. I'm like, what the fuck are you saying?
Well, and I think too, like, I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong, JP, but I would assume you probably had, with New York, you probably had relationships with coaches, and maybe you were giving them the data, because you're probably watching scrims alongside a coach, right? Like, you're tracking stuff with them, you're giving them info, and maybe like the coach is like, hey, this is what JP's telling me here. JP, like, break it down for you, right? Where now, I mean, it's a little bit different. Like, the whole situation where Ray happened. So it's just kind of, you have to build that one-on-one relationship with the team.
I would say a little bit. I mean, I would say at the beginning of MW, it was kind of like that.
Okay.
But Revan and I give a lot of credit to Lamar, because he helped me out a lot, because he's like trusted me a lot with this stuff. So they really helped me, assimilate into the team environment. So at the end of the like MW, I was conversing with them as well, talking about stuff. So really, big credit to Revan and Lamar for like actually trusting me with that stuff and bringing me in like that. And then, once Cold War came around, I got a lot more, I just felt so much more comfortable with what was going on in terms of a gameplay perspective. Obviously, the game would change each year, but I just got a lot more confidence in my game knowledge, and that just helped me out a lot because of what I would want to track now that I know X, Y, and Z. What I can say to players because I know what will work, won't work. Again, like you said, Clint, like all player relationships. That's the one thing that helped me with my major, whether it's labor relations, because you're dealing with employer to employee relationships, and building trust between those two parties is huge. And player to player relationships, player to coach relationships are so massive, and especially like a small team environment like this, that I don't think people realize how big it can be and how much of an impact it can be to players. So yeah, I mean, I got a lot more confidence over the years, and I really had a lot of good players to help me out with that. I mean, I had Lamar first year, Clay the second year, Krim the third year,
Yeah.
Ant this year.
Yeah.
Like a lot of smart players that I could just build my knowledge of the game off of, and with different perspectives, but also high acumen, high accolades with all those players. It was.
And those are the guys that want the stats, right? Like they want the info.
Yeah.
Like those are the guys who are looking for what are we doing wrong, right? Those are the vocal guys in the calls, like, yo, JP, like what's happening here type thing.
Well, how do you because I feel like it'd be difficult to yes, you need to learn and it helps obviously, but I think your value is that also, even if you don't know it as intimately, you look at it differently, right? You just with the numbers and how you look at the game, it's a different POV.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like sometimes you have to not be, I don't know if manipulate is the right word, but not be view it the same way as a player. So you need to view it by your info, if that makes sense. So you're bringing something to the table and not just going along with what the fuck they're saying, getting stats that support that.
No, and honestly, I think the mesh completely helped me so much because now I have the player side, now I have the stat side, and I can group that together to whatever I need to. It's a balance that I was able to get first year that I realized that I can really merge these two families together if one day I could. And that's really helped me a lot in turning my viewpoint on the game.
Dude, I am so jealous of just the tools you guys have. It's just a coaching staff. I'm so jealous. We didn't even watch VODs back then, or you watched it on yourself and wrote notes down. JP could probably tell me, which, we're playing, I don't know, New York. How many times they go to the B bomb, right? You probably just the stats in depth nowadays it's probably insane. It's on another level.
And it's tracked a different way. Obviously I was doing it manually before, but I've saved so much time learning how to code myself, and then actually building things to track scoreboards or track
so you've built your own program.
Yeah. And I think multiple analysts nowadays probably are doing the same. But you probably remember Doug, who was with LAG. I think he's out of the scene now, but I talked with him a lot during Black Ops 4 because he was helping me with COD stats, and he was helping me get in, show the ropes for a lot of the coding stuff that I was able to do. And it saves so much time. Thinking about it to myself now is why did I use Excel for however long when I could have used R or Python, these different computer languages that if anyone's coming up and trying to be an analyst for a Call of Duty team or any esports team, learn how to code first, because that is going to save you so much time and it helps with everything. So
I'm just thinking.
No, because you're gonna get replaced by AI.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking
that thing is amazing.
Bro, that golf thing, I was like, dude,
bro.
I'm just thinking there's probably some analysts out there though, on a pro team that's still screenshotting. I bet you there's one. There's gotta be someone.
It's just I don't know. I'd rather save all my time so I could do something else. Because I can watch the scrim now. It's not I have to keep tracking 60 to 0, 58 to 2 while the game's going on. I can watch the mini map. I can watch the player point of view. It's I don't have to tend to that anymore.
Makes sense. Before we get sort of optic stuff, we talk about sort of players game to game. It's a big change for them. For your data or what you like to do, does the title change that from for year to year for you? Or has it?
Well, so the actual code I'll have to change every year just because Codcaster changes. So if Codcaster
Yeah, I guess
changes,
more what data you're looking for. I guess.
yeah. So what I'll use is
very like predictive versus reactive with this title, like that type of thing. Like it's like I feel like the numbers mean a lot different shit in Cold War versus fucking Vanguard.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll see different percentages break wise and stuff, but like a lot of the time, even just rotation win percentage, that's going to be huge in this game. Or like, if you really look in the first month, you can see like, oh, what are the trends going to be? Like, is it going to be more holding, more breaking? Which hills or which maps are going to be, the money hills, things like that. So I'll use that first month to gauge what I really want to look for in terms of a lot of stuff. Because it was super different with Cold War to MW, where it was like, okay, one squad spawns, one's regular spawns now, so everything is different. Like the way we're gonna want to play is completely different. And obviously, and if a new game mode comes out, we had to switch from Dom to Control, and now I'm tracking something else for Control because Dom is obsolete now. It'll change. Obviously, not as much anymore because we're stuck with the hardpoint search control stuff now. But most of the time, it's usually the same. I'll gauge that the first few weeks or first month of data and see what I can gather from that.
Yeah, I'm sure you see trends based data, right? But
yeah.
Before we hop into the OpTic stuff, I want to just like have a laugh about like this, just the evolution of this whole stats thing over the years, because like there's just some funny shit, bro. Like, so all right, we went from having nothing, like day one is God builds the earth, just fucking nothing there. And then Puckett tweets and we get JP screenshot and shit, and I hope the stats are right. I don't know. There might be somebody, did they get DDoSed? I don't know, the servers drop. I had a fucking idea.
Yeah,
if they're correct.
Leave the lobby because they were getting smoked. Like,
but then the CWL happened, and Activision actually got involved in the consumer marketing team, and they hired a stats team to get involved. And the stats team, bro, that we finally had back-end data. The site they had, it wasn't like very like user-friendly, but it was fucking legit. Like you could watch, you could watch like heat maps play out. Like it'd just be like you were looking at like a soccer field almost, but like you could see like the players' things moving around and like different heat maps where the kills were made, like all these live graphics. It was
steps a player took.
Yeah, how many wall running, how much time in the air, like we had everything. And then they didn't hire him the next year, so that was fucking sick. So then we went back to basically square one. Then the CDL starts, and we basically had this one fucking guy who half the time that Joe and I would DM him to give us stats, he wouldn't reply. And then at Champs, he quits day one of Champs. He just fucking walked out. Our one stats guy just walked out. So we didn't have stats.
I would never walk out on you, Clint. It's fine.
Like it's been like such a
stats.
It's been such a roller coaster, bro. Like it's just
luckily Breaking Point was around then, which other stats guys now work on, right? The community sort of built up Breaking Point, but you had that.
Yeah, that was more, I guess, I guess I want the league to get the point.
No, I hear you. I'm just saying, once our stats guy left, at least we had that to work.
Yeah, yeah. I just want it to be like you're going to ESPN, you're looking at different players in basketball and records, and like it's all just there. Like I want to get there, and we're still not even close. But at least like you guys have a resource. But I want like fans to be able to. Like I don't watch as much basketball as I used to. But you know what I do? I go look at the box score, and then I go down a rabbit hole of looking at different shit and just looking at stats. Like I do that all the time, and like. I don't think that's really a thing.
Yeah,
like the average fan.
Yeah, I agree. Like that World War II IW, that period, it was like a gold mine for stats. And there's still some like GitHub that has all the raw data that I always tell people to go and look at because
that's true because we played fantasy, didn't we? Wasn't that like the start of like
IW camps? IW camps. Yeah, fantasy. I remember that.
But what team was what stats team was that, Joe? Was that the same team from Black Ops 3? I thought they did do 2 years. That's right, they did do 2 years.
They did multiple years, but they didn't get hired again, or they didn't have as much access to the API or something like that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It was something weird. They were actually kind of great, but those are the people
we did fantasy all IW, dude. It was lit.
Dude, I just knew there was just a gold mine of stats, and then here I am, after BO4, I get hired by New York, and I know that I'm going to the team, and I'm thinking to myself, like, they better have these stats, like, when I start, because, like, I'm going to lose full if I'm going to have to keep tracking all this again, or they're not even going to have it for matches.
College all over again.
And I'm like, please give this to us. I'm telling the league, I'm like, please. And I realized that they didn't have that third party anymore. And I was like, oh, this might be bad. Like, and then eventually, like, we don't get detailed match data for a while. Like, it didn't happen until last year or 2 years ago, where we finally started getting detailed access, from match data to the teams. But before that, it was just we had to track it ourselves. Like, it wasn't even being tracked, and that made me upset because I was like, I know what's there and what can be tracked. It's just like, is the effort going to be taken to get that? So yeah, that was just it was a bummer on my end for the first 2 years, but now they're getting more steps towards what we used to have.
So now when you guys are done with a match, you guys get sent like a detailed like match stat type thing, or
we have access to like a dashboard that we can play around with.
The back
basically.
end. Okay, so you guys have access now. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what Clint and I weren't sure. Like, and do you have access to every team, or is it just your team?
Yeah, it's every team.
Okay.
I was wondering.
Interesting. Interesting. Wow, that's awesome. Well, at least it's in a much better spot now. At least we got that to work
for sure.
with. There you go, Clint. It's there.
Well, it's just like it's got potential to be so like wild though. Like it's not like real sports are limited in the fact it's not all data exactly like in a game, right? Like, dude, just some of like the game analysis stuff I've heard like rumors of like stuff people are working on. It's like this, like it's like game analysis where like it can literally like there'll be a program you have, like you're an average player, it'll like get all the data from you playing and they can literally give you feedback visually and statistically on how to improve. Like, this is where your crosshair should be placed. This is the route you should take. This is where you should like it can get so wild and fucking cool. I just hope we get there. I don't know what's going to take. I mean, money is what it's going to take. But
but it's like we don't need to pay for a bunch of cameras, high-speed cameras to watch over our arena, or these players to wear something on their chest or wear something in their skate so that we can track it. It's literally already being tracked in the game. It's just we can actually get something from it.
Yeah, that's what's so frustrating. Like, it's all just there. We just need someone to either like a publisher or dev has to own it, or it's going to be like I don't know, like an HLTV or like someone that blows up, gets a bunch of funding and just takes this bitch over. And like, I don't know, but like, I feel like we're not even close to where it can be.
Clint, I'm already fighting enough AI in Warzone. I don't want to fight. It sounds like we're fighting more AI here soon, huh? Like some real iRobot Will Smith type stuff.
Versus AI 4v4. Like, we're not even gonna have to scrim the pro team.
That's true. Don't they do that on like chess? Like chess just like fries. Like
imagine like bot forge rotating P4. Like,
did you ever play Perfect Dark on N64 on like the hardest mode? You just get one tap pre-fire. Everyone's selling him, bro. Like, it's insane.
Can you imagine a computer snaking as the perfect form? Like,
wow.
Being killed, like.
We're talking about the future here now. Wow, this is gonna get crazy. Okay, well, luckily I'm retired, so I'm gonna deal with that. All right, JP. So you move on from New York. You arrive at OpTic for this year. I guess how did that whole process go down for you? Just sort of looking for a home, they reach out type deal?
Yeah, so it was the first time I was an actual like free agent over the offseason. Hastro, once I made a tweet like that I was a free agent, he reached out and he was like, let me talk with you soon. So I ended up talking with Hastro, and Ray was super good with that because he was probably in Mike's ear. Because I remember back actually after MW, they had reached out to me, Dallas Empire, but it was just they didn't have the budget for what I was making, so it was like, thank you, but no thank you. I just can't take that offer.
Right.
So I knew Ray always wanted to work with me, and I knew I would like to work with Ray if I had the chance. So yeah, it was a pretty easy decision for me. I had a couple teams, but I ended up going with OpTic as I thought was my best option. So
that's a good idea. Yeah, I think we all know it's a lot of people would probably make that same decision.
Have you ever like thought about like when this started, because it wasn't your major, like you got involved, like where you wanted to get with this, like what your end goal is with this career path? Because like getting to OpTic in a franchise league, like that's pretty. I mean, maybe that's it. It's fucking awesome. Or is there something like you've envisioned is like maybe next step down the road?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like when I first joined New York, I was like, oh, this is the dream job. But then I was like, okay, what's up from here? So I don't know.
You're young, man.
Right now, I love this. Maybe eventually I'll go into like some type of managerial role or something higher up in the org. I think that would be a cool like step up. Because I don't know if I'll want to, sit in scrims every day for the rest of my life. Because
Understood. Yeah.
that doesn't sound like the best.
Call of Duty Vanguard 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That does not sound fun, but for right now, I love the work, and it's like it doesn't even feel like a job most of the time.
good.
So it's super nice.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Then obviously, early in the season, stages 1 and 2, pretty rocky. Weren't the best, especially for OpTic. I guess like for you, like what was the key learnings that you wanted to bring to the squad after those, couple of stages?
Yeah, so a lot of it, they were a team going into this year, but obviously they had the whole Vanguard season. So there was all this drama on who's playing with who, and obviously they ended up keeping the same roster. I know that going into it, so I'm just thinking, I gotta basically start over like I did in MW and gain these guys' trust because it's 4 completely new players. I'd never been in the org, so I was like, I gotta gain their trust, realize or get them to realize that I have some knowledge in the game and what my stats can provide or whatever they need me to provide. And just work with them that way. Working with Ray was awesome because I was able to really focus on the stats based wise what he was facing on, or well he was had emphasis on that gameplay wise, and we were able to really merge together like any ideas that we had. But also working with the players was awesome. Like, Seth ended up retiring, but he was like great to work with during that time. Unfortunately, it was only like 2 months that I got to work with him, but during that time, he was like super vibey, and he was.
Were you a little intimidated at first? Because like there's Call of Duty players, and then there's Scump. Like, when you had to go tell me he was doing something stupid, were you shitting yourself a little bit?
Not really, because I already dealt with Clay and Crim, so it was not a big deal anymore. It was like. So yeah, no, it wasn't a big deal.
Nah, he's great. He's great.
No, and I really respect them for like taking me in super easily and realizing some of the value that I could bring. So I was super blessed. Super blessed. Wow, what voice crack.
You said you were young.
Super blessed that they were able to take that into consideration and help me out at the beginning.
That's good to hear, because I think one of the things that's impressed me about Seth just as a player, he's won it all. He is very wealthy. He literally hasn't needed to compete for fucking a long time. Like, I couldn't believe he's played as long as he had and stayed as hungry as long as he was. And to hear that, like, you coming in, I think it'd be very easy for a goddamn millionaire and world champ like him to just sort of be like, whatever you're saying, fuck off, I'm Scump type thing. Like, it'd be very easy for someone to be like that.
But he's super cool.
That's
like,
just not sad, though. That's
no.
Yeah,
I know. I'm saying, like, I just love and respect that, like, because it's very easy to not be like that, I think. And he's always just kind of, I don't know, just kind of stayed humble and stayed fucking Seth.
But yeah, early those player relationships is what you have to build first, and then you can talk about the stats or the gameplay with them. But obviously, step one, get to know them and have a good time with them first. Like, that was important for me to.
You're getting them drunk, dude.
Vibey squad, the Vibe squad.
Shots on JP.
Shots on JP. Okay, we don't have to get into details here, but obviously the whole Rambo thing happened. I think a lot of people were shocked. Really wasn't sure what was going on. I guess, did this change anything for you, or did you have those relationships built up? Because it sounds like him and you and Ray were on the same page. How you wanted to approach things. To Ray's not really involved anymore. He's going to make content. To now, all right, it's just you in that scrim room. All right, like, what do I need to do now, right? Like, sort of thing. So I guess, what changed for you?
Not too much. So like, obviously it was a bigger role that I had to like take, but that's just the cards that you're dealt with, and you gotta play with that. But obviously taking a little bit of a step back and being like, okay, this is what we gotta work with. But it was different because I wanted to really make it an environment where we can benefit from anything that they want first. So it's like, I wanted to more so be like, if you need me, I'm there and I can help out with everything.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't so much a direct like, okay, this is going to be the way we play, but it's like, what do you guys suggest? I have questions on what this is going to be, but what do you guys suggest here? This is what I suggest. And we just had like a more communal conversation with that, because I realized that, having those player relationships and dealing with them that way where everyone really had a say with it was going to be important to them, because, it's all player to player. Like, something I could say to Kyler is not going to be the same thing I could say to Krim, or, it's you have to take it by case basis, because everyone's different. And you probably learned that day one of working with anyone in any type of job. But especially in terms of like you're working with younger guys in a team environment like this, where there's only 4 people, everyone's going to react differently to criticism. Everyone's going to react differently to anything that you say. So I wanted to be a little bit more open with it and, take it step by step in that direction. So, I had a lot of help from Ant, because he was, really, he is really, really smart gameplay wise. He puts on a show on stream and does some.
Are you sure?
Funny, stupid stuff. I don't know what it is, but he has 10 out of 10 game sense. So,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he puts on a show. I don't know about you guys, but the way that he thinks about the game is great, and I was able to lean on him with anything that I thought might be, or should be brought up. But I was mainly relying on him to help me out with a lot of the stuff, and I appreciate, all the work that he's done to help me with that. And then, once we bring in Dan, everything, like all the vibes are great, and he is like one of the smartest players you'll ever meet, and probably the best comms wise I've ever dealt with. And that's, saying a lot with the players that I've worked with. So everything has made my job a lot easier. I'm just there to basically help, point out any strengths and weaknesses that they might not see already on a VOD or a gameplay or a VOD or stats basis. So I'm there as that extra resource, but also, in the war room every day with them, watching the VOD and, either bringing some type of value in terms of, what we could do here, or what do you guys suggest here, but, really bringing it to more open discussion for all the guys to say their piece.
Well, I was like kind of, I don't know, you've been the homie, like, and I was a little bit worried for you in this role, because like, listen, we Teep's our guy, and we would play with Teep when he was coaching OpTic, and Teep would get on Blackout and be like, this fucking guy Dashy and TJ, they slept through scrims again. Motherfuckers won't get on and play, won't watch VOD. Like, he would just rage to us about like the lack of like work ethic from that side. And then, the issues that have gone over the years in that camp. And then the stuff went down with Ray, and I just wasn't sure what you were walking into and how that was going to be. But I was hoping that, like, kind of like Seth said in his like retirement thing, like, I'm falling so you can get up or whatever. Like, I'm hoping like everyone's locked, and Dashy especially is like, I gotta fucking be on my shit. Like, how I guess has he been? He's been receptive to stuff. He's been good to work with.
Yeah, he's been great to work. Honestly, like, I'm surprised he hasn't been as late as much as he had. Like, he was late one day, and it was yesterday because he overslept a warm up. They were supposed to warm up Illey Thieves, and that was the first time that he was ever late. But I changed the way that I wanted to do like VOD, because I do think sometimes there is like an overcoaching mentality where it's like, critique. Then, a player like Kyler, he's supposed to be a free-flowing player where, if he sees an opening, he's going to take that opening, but it's a calculated risk. Same with Ant. So they play off of that, and it's like you can't really cage them in a box all the time, because that's
I know they're thinking sometimes. They're just their brains are just on another planet. They just do shit, bro. They're the fuck.
It's just gonna make them overthink, and that's the worst thing that you could do for a player like Kyler Ant. So, the only VOD that we'll do is like some tendencies of the other opposing teams before we play them, or if we've been screwing up or fucking up like one hill
over and over again,
over and over, then we'll watch something and be like, what are we doing here? But for the most part, like, we're not watching VOD every day. It's more so like, if something arises where we need to talk about it, we'll talk about it. Or if, obviously some tendency stuff before we play a match.
Well, it's crazy because we just had Vance on. And we were just asking him about Cold War, his Cold War team with Ultra, And he was just like, we kept it to a minimum. Like, we practiced and we got off. Like, we didn't play the game. We didn't really watch VOD. We just wanted to act naturally, just like we just wanted to play reactive.
Quality over quantity. Like just get good stuff in. I think.
I mean, and our scrims are great. So, and they all love. They have so much fun in these scrims, and I'm like, I've never had a team where it was like so much effort, but also fun. And obviously, it's fun when you're doing well. But like,
yeah.
But like, if you're having those quality of scrims where you're actually learning things or making this become like second nature, like it enhances everything more than a VOD session will do.
I think you nailed it. Like, you just have players that you don't want to put too much shit in their heads. Like, find that one thing, hit it. Like, if there's one thing that's really plaguing them, get that shit drilled into their heads.
Mm-hmm.
The rest, let them fucking do whatever they're. Let them go swim.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of mini-map critiques that you'll see, like on an analyst desk or on any type of odd session that you might do with the team, that play doesn't work there, but 2 times out of 10 that does work. So like sometimes it does work, but even sometimes critiquing one play where it's like that play didn't work, but 9 out of 10 that risk taking that is going to work. So you can't like critique that because it's like, okay, this is just the way we're gonna play. But a lot of it is just like, you have to deal with the players that you're dealt with and dealing with how they'll respond well to whatever it is. And if they respond well, then we're a happy camp, right? So
cool. I love that.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's awesome. Yeah, I mean you guys have a very like you said, sort of free flowing. Just the players. Obviously, this roster is so talented. Like
and that makes
the skill ceiling
easier. Obviously,
yeah, right. The skill ceiling for this team is so high, as we've been seeing. But you talked about the Huke and Shotzy dynamic, and I think for a long time since Black Ops 4, since Cold War, every team has tried to mimic sort of a Simp and a Beezy, right? A very fast entry playing sub versus a slow slaying sub and Simp. And I think everyone kind of looked at, all right, this blueprint, how do we match that? What 2 subs can we put together to do that? Where, in my mind, Huke and Shotzy, and Shotzy said this recently, like they play so similar. Or just
similar.
Kind of works. Like, I guess, can you discuss that dynamic at all, like between those two? Because it's different. It's different.
It's otherworldly because you see Kyler on another team and it's not working out as well, but when he's with Ann or when he's in a good environment, he's disgusting. And it's not like, oh, he's not a smart player. He's a smart player. He just has to be in the right environment or the right system. And it's funny because him and Ant play so similarly that like, one will go off and go rogue, one will stay back. And then one will stay back and go rogue, but they'll like always be on the same mindset where they're both not going rogue. Or that was a problem for us at a certain point where we talked about it and we're like, okay, one of you go rogue, one of you stay back, but like balance that. And they're able to do it like seamlessly.
Yin and yang, bro. Like it's working.
I told this story to Ben the other day, but there was one time in a scrim like a week ago, and we're breaking on Hotel P2. And the way they're breaking, they do the exact same movement and like go, dive out, shoulder one way, go to the spot, heady, crouch or prone, crouch back up, and they get collided. And they just start laughing because they're like, oh, we just lined up by doing the exact same thing. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how the fuck does that happen? Where you're so on the same page that like you literally do the exact same movement and they got collided because you both lined up. So it was hilarious, like in the moment.
Well, I think there's not only like, the 2 times they've teamed together, there's a big similarity between those 2 teams. You had a remarkable comms guy. Like you had Clay and Empire who will fucking call out for the whole team. Yeah. You have Ghosty that'll call out for the whole team here. And like, I think that like yin and yang and like they're shifting gears to balance each other. Like I think that works because they can just focus on that at times and like they're processing all the comms from Ghosty and they can just shut the fuck up and fry. Like I think that's got to be. I mean, I don't play, but like it has to be huge for that type of style. 100%. It has to be.
Like Dan, like I said, Dan is probably got the best comms of a player I've ever worked.
Joe gassed the shit out of me yesterday, bro.
Like it's literally amazing what he can do for the team. And he even said this, like it wasn't even his role back in Challengers, like because he was frying in Challengers, but he's like, I want to be the facilitator. I want to be that next Karma for this team and be a dynasty. I want to be that facilitator. So he took up that role, and super gun him. He's amazing with that. It's actually unbelievable for a rookie like this to bring sort of that type of impact for him. So he's literally a walking UAV. You ask anyone on this team, and they're like, yeah, "This guy's got the best comms." Like I don't even know how he does it.
I mean, it's crazy. I played a couple of ranked games with him, and I can't believe he played with Fellow. I was like, "There's just those two motor mouths on the same."
I thought it was Fellow. I was like listening to your stream. I thought it was fucking Fellow. The voice too.
Fellow's clone. I'm convinced.
Yeah.
The way they talk, the way they everything is the same. It's so funny. But yeah, he's been a pleasure to work with. He's super smart, super talented, and he's just been like a blessing, obviously, to the squad. And he's transformed the squad to something different. And I'll always remember this one point. It was like the first day that we started scrimming, and this is why I love Kyler, because he's so selfless. And Dan, he comes in the team wanting to try and do everything for the team. Like, I'll bait for you, I'll do this. And he dives through to try and break a hill, and Kyler gets the trade. And Kyler goes, "Never fucking do that again. Like, I slide first. I got the sub," or something like that. And I thought that was the funniest thing, because it was like he's trying to do everything to put himself on the squad, and then Kyler's just like, "Dude, no. Like, I got this. Like we're playing for the win. I'm gonna slide for you."
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, it's obviously he's found his role, is what it seems like. He knows what he has to do on this team. Which is like to make sure you guys aren't making mistakes in game, making sure those guys are on the same page. It just feels like it's funny. He says he wants to be the facilitator like Karma, because Karma was Karma did it though in a different way. He was very quiet. Damon did not say a lot of words, but when Damon spoke, there was a lot of weight behind it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Where like he is just like going, like making sure everyone is on the same page where they need to be, and just letting them do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah,
well,
and
I mean, the average. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say this just makes Ant's job so much easier, because he was kind of doing that for us, like stage 1, stage 2. Now I won't forget this map, like Florida stage 1. It was the series that we ended up losing, but it was a hotel hardpoint where he absolutely fried, and he was calming like Dan would calm, and doing that as a sub. And I was like, that was the most impressive map maybe I've ever seen.
Not easy to do.
And I was like, but you can't keep that up. Like, it's not feasible. It's literally not possible to do all the time, especially, as a sub. So I knew that was like some area that like obviously we would need to work on. And, Dan was the perfect role for that.
So like, when they talk about like CS, like there's like an in-game leader, right? And people talk about them usually not putting up big numbers because it's such like an important role. But like COD's so much faster that like, everyone sort of is on some teams, like the dynamic. Everyone has to calm or be involved. But like when you have people that are really good, like listen, it's forever ago, but the thing that always comes to my mind was that MVE United comeback when there's a fucking 5-minute listen in. I don't think John or App said a goddamn word. They were just running around piecing, Caps just saying shit, and like we all like, even if you're an average player, like just watches, like doesn't play this level, like. One of the hardest things, I know how hard it is to like calm well when I'm in gunfights. And when you are fighting and doing things, it is infinitely harder. When you can just shut your fucking mouth and focus on the fights and the map, it is so much easier. It is so, even just the average person, it's so much easier.
I think it's less about like the shooting aspect too, and more like what's coming next.
I mean?
What is the next play?
Like all of it. I mean,
where's the next play?
Gunfight and talking. They're handling 40 more things.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah,
I try, bro. It's like it's hard to like focus on the moment and what's coming, and then also, dude, I don't know. It's tough, man. It's one of the big things. Like communication is a huge part of separating like pros from not pros. Like
and I mean, COD gets a lot of flack for being like, oh, this Twitch shooter, but like, dude, Respawn is hard. Like there are a lot of quick decisions that need to be made, and you have to make the right one every single time. And you have to do it in a very quick amount of time with little to no info, just whatever you're getting commed at. So
yeah, because a game like Cold War, right, where there's a good spawn system, when you spawn up in a game like Cold War, that spawn is telling you where your team is, where the enemy team is, kind of what's happening next. In a game like this, there's a lot of parallel spawns. If you move 5 feet, get behind a wall. Someone could on the enemy team can spawn behind you. There is a lot of. I mean, the pros say it like P1 Hotel. Oh yeah, they're just gonna spawn everywhere. Like they can't even read it, right? So it's even more so on a title like this where the comms have to be. I mean, yeah. Almost perfect.
And you have red dots, which is sick, but it's very reactive, right? Versus like a CS or some of our good titles where it's very predictive. And like when you die, you kind of know where you're gonna spawn. You know what the next step is. You're in a system. This is just very free flowing. And that's probably why fucking Shotzy and Huke works so well. Cause that's like kind of what this is, bro. Like you get a feel for the moment and react. Like
and go off.
You want to talk about stats and analytics, like the next wave of that is like decision making. This person making the right decision 90% of the time, this person's making the decision 70%. That's where it'll end up growing. Or even if you were able to like decipher comms and analyze it that way, that's, I feel like, is the next wave of everything, just based on where everything's going in terms of like AI and more tools to help out with that. We're going to be past numbers, we're going to be past that, and we're now going to a decision making or comms, a more broader approach of analytics, which
what was Ray's
super
tweet?
Cool.
Left stick mistakes. I fucking love that.
Oh, once he first said that,
I love that.
I fucking love that.
That's so good. Like left stick's your brain, right stick's your gunny. Like
exactly.
Where are you going off spot? I thought that was so good.
So we discussed Huke and Shotzy. Obviously you guys move away from Illey. I think everyone was a little bit surprised, but bringing in Ghosty, Major 3, you guys finished top 4, but I guess for you, that London match, if that goes the other way, I mean, I don't know how scrims were before that.
You remember what you said to me after that match?
It was awful.
Yeah, you said we look awful.
I thought you did.
I said it during the match. Yeah. I did think you guys looked awful. Like
it was.
They should have lost. Honestly, that Mercado was not good. But it doesn't matter because they finished top 4. And I mean, that built so much confidence for this roster. Obviously, in front of your home crowd, Ghosty, who's in this now. You're on OpTic. There's pressure there, no matter who you are.
Yeah.
And he got comfortable, and you can now see what it's done for this team. But it's just funny to look back at that match and say, like, what would have maybe happened if you lost that?
No, I wasn't a believer, dude. Like,
it was all just translating what we were doing in scrims to the matches, and after that London match, that's what we really look like. And we realized it after the London match. We were like, we are calming way too frantic. We are calming like. It's life and death. Like, let's chill out. Let's calm like we do in a scrim, and then everything will be fine. And that's exactly what happened. Like from that point forward, like we realized that, and they changed the comms significantly. Like if you listen to one listen-in on one day, I guess it would be Friday, and then listen into any of the Saturday or Sunday listen-ins, it's like night and day.
That's awesome.
It just like it works for him. I remember like when they started winning, I went into Damon's chat. He was streaming. I'm like, Damon. We were wondering like how this team was going to work because like you have a lot of just like it's kind of a weird team with some of just like the raw talent and decision making type stuff. But like on this title, it works. And I was like, Damon, listen, they're frying, they're winning every hardpoint, but like, are they putting up 25 points against you on Yemen and Black Ops 2? And he's like, no, no. They'd be rotating fucking 5 seconds for the hardpoint. Just.
We got this. Before we get into stage 4, Major 4, the bracket coming up, I'm just curious. It happened in like Vanguard, but now you've been on OpTic for a couple of stages now. But this OpTic versus FaZe matchup, why do you feel like this roster owns it? I mean, because a couple of years ago, it was all FaZe. Like OpTic wasn't touching FaZe in Cold War. We hardly got it in MW with Huntsman. They just never really competed. But then that first major 1 in Vanguard, it just flipped. Like something happened. It's carried with this team now to now. Like, why do you think your boys play so well versus FaZe?
I think Ann and Brandon just step it up to a new level versus them.
They just love the matchup.
They just love the matchup, especially at this time. Like every time they play them, they're like, "Oh, we know we're gonna take them." Like they get hyped up because I guess
it was scrim for 3 years
with them. Yeah, I don't know what was going on with that, but I don't know. They just love facing up against them. I guess they see it as like the highest level of competition, and they just want to be the best. So that's where it comes from for sure.
Awesome.
Well, it's
Yeah.
probably like usually everyone wants to like put everything into beating Optic. Like they probably it's like the one matchup where they kind of feel that way. Like we just want to shit on FaZe, those little fucks.
Yeah. Yeah, it must be. I don't know. I was just curious. Stage 4, you guys, I mean, 5-0 this stage.
Twisted.
I mean, obviously, a lot of people are talking about your hardpoint, but your search is 4-1. We kind of talked about what we think works for your hardpoint. It feels like you guys are just you're very reactive on the map now.
Yeah, it's
guys
just
don't
all
really-
being on the same page. Really, the teamwork is incredible. It's like, you talk about LAT at the end of Vanguard. I think that's where we're at right now. Like in terms of teamwork wise, like
Wow.
it's different the way that they are able to play with each other compared to other teams right now. It's just like the teamwork, the trades, like assists, like the way that they're able to play together is different right now.
Yeah. And you're also doing it over 4 maps, so it's not like you have a small map pool when it comes to hardpoint. Search and destroy. I feel like whenever you have Shotzy, Huke, and Dashy on a team, you're going to have a strong search. You guys have a 4-1. I guess sort of the big thing is maybe control. For you, like, what do you think needs to change for their control, or what are you guys trying to improve on? Is it just taking a little bit more time with this new roster, or do you just feel like now we're kind of frying in scrims and control? It just hasn't translated yet.
Yeah, I would say both a little bit. I think it was a mindset thing before where it was like, oh, it's we just played the hard points, we love hard points. Now it's got to go to control. But it really switched last major where we're just like, or after the major where we're like, we're gonna have to be a good control team and if we want to contend for the championship, because like we're not going to be able to lose every control and just win the hard points and searches all the time. Like we can't rely on that. So it was a mindset shift where we're like, let's have fun with control. Let's let that part of the day be like the most fun part and the part of the day where we're focusing and we're looking forward to it the most. And that was a big thing for the mentality. Like we were like, oh, we're spawning to a silo, like, oh, we love this. Like, we're spawning to a hotel, we love this. Obviously, Fortress gets removed for Expo. It's like, oh, it's a new vibey map. Let's see what we can do on this new map that everyone's learning. So it was a brand new refresh start for us on that map too. So it was like it was a newfound appreciation for control. And we've been better at it in scrims. Obviously, it's still translating in matches, but we really want to do well in the control, obviously, into this major, because if we can fix up the control, we should be Sunday every day, or every tournament.
No, and I think too, like if you just look at past major winners, I mean, this is going back to Cold War. Like those, it feels like the people who are winning. I think there's a couple of teams that are excluded, like what LAG Stage 2 last year. I think FaZe at Major 2, they didn't have like the best control. But besides that, it feels like whoever's winning control has like 1 or 2 losses throughout a major. So yeah, I was just curious because it feels like whoever's winning that, there's a really good chance. I'm sure it deals with the vetoes, but like because you're winning that swing map, it just feels like you have a really good shot at winning.
No, yeah, it's the closeout potential, it's the comeback potential, the swing potential if you're 1-1. Like it's bigger than it's one map, but it's bigger than a lot of people realize because it is like right dab in the middle of the series.
Awesome. And I guess for you, before we get into the major, who do you feel is kind of your biggest competition?
Who
do you like? We've heard about your scrims and how well there's like the scrappy clip of like he just feels like Optic's on another level right now. But there's got to be someone who's playing you guys tough day in and day out.
Yeah, I would say LAT and Seattle are probably the 2 biggest contenders with us. Okay. I still think we should be able to win this whole thing, based on what we're showing, and it's just if we can bring it at the tournament for sure. I think Toronto had a bad stage, but they could, it's LAN. They could do whatever. They just won the last LAN, so it's
100%.
They're up there too. It's not like they're just washed out because they had a 1-4 online stage. They're starting a loser bracket, but they can easily make a run. So any of those teams like FaZe, even like they if they can fix their hard point, that's a scary team now because now you're scary at hard point and search, and that's really scary for contenders. So that Seattle Atlanta match 1, is going to be insane because one of those teams is going to the loser bracket straight away.
Yeah, speaking of that, let's show off the bracket. Stage 4 qualifiers wrapped up. We have Major 4 starting this Thursday. All the teams will be heading up to Columbus, which would be a little bit different, right? Because the Major was supposed to be in New York. It doesn't happen. So for everyone maybe who missed the news, right, that New York was supposed to host the Major, didn't happen. Then they pivot away. From that. So the league has to pivot, and I think we did this at the Pro-Am last year, right? Did you go to that the Pro-Am last year, JP?
We won that.
Oh, true. Duh. Well, I more meant like, were you present? Like, were you there?
Yeah.
I guess how was it for? Because it's different, right? And
it's
I think
different vibe for sure.
Anytime you have OpTic, doesn't matter if you're where you are, you're gonna have a very strong fan base, right? You're gonna have the advantage of the crowd. Have you guys talked about that at all going into this major?
Not much. We just knew that it was going to be a different vibe. I think it's weird because obviously there's no fans. So we won the event and we were like, it didn't even feel like a real event because there was no crowd. We didn't like celebrate or anything because it was just like
right. Yeah, you're just like, yeah, nice. We won
in front of the main stage, quote unquote, but it's just two tables together. So it actually it did feed our hunger later on in last season because it's like, oh, we didn't win in front of the fans, so we didn't get a real win, so like we have to win again, so I could see that for us. Like, let's say we win this, hopefully we win this tournament, that it won't be so much, oh, we've accomplished our goal of winning an event. It's like, oh, now we want to do it in front of fans, like it's a whole different vibe there, and it's it's cool. It goes back to the grassroots, but obviously you'd love to play in front of a crowd because that's where the real action is.
I'm like really looking forward to it because like when we're as commentators, when we're at like the big events, like we're kind of just like tied off in the green room. Like players are kind of in their rooms. Like, if you go out around fans, usually you're, talking or taking photos or signing stuff for a while. Like it's hard to like get around sometimes. But like with that, like the Pro League or like a Columbus event, like, I don't know. It's just like all the homies are together, man. It's like really fun to just spend a lot of time with the players. Everyone, like, that's where like a lot of these bonds and friendships start. Like I'm actually like really excited to head out and just hang out. Like I didn't have to go there. I got a caster from home and I volunteered to go.
Well, we won't be near the players at all. They're in a different part of the world.
Now you just ruined my life because I was picturing like the LAN League, dude. I was picturing like old school. Okay, that's what's gonna be in my head.
They're not close to the studio at all.
Sorry, Clint.
Yeah, sorry.
That was like even without fans.
They're in like the Arlington part of Seabus in a way, like kind of. It's just kind of like this area. I mean, there's a bunch of dudes like Top Golf and stuff over there. It's plenty. But,
we had lit matches like that. FaZe Optic Stage 1, World War II. Like, dude, we've had some incredible like series in moments that didn't have fans. Like Attach running through the artillery. Like there are some you could still have godlike series and moments. So I don't think like you have to have a crowd. But now that I know the players aren't there, and I can't watch them scream. That makes me sad.
Yeah. But here is that bracket. I think we'll just go through the matches. The first round matches, just talk about some of the losers bracket teams, and then we'll hit community questions and head out. Obviously, for you guys versus Boston, this is you just played them, yesterday? Or two
days ago.
You won that one. You guys played twice at the last major. They beat you guys in a game 5. Game 5? They beat you guys?
Beans was twisted and then not
Beans was going off. I guess for you, I mean, how you guys feeling about this matchup? Got to be feeling pretty confident, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're confident for this whole tournament. I think
any matchup.
on a different we're on a different mindset right now.
I love that. I will say, just taking a look at this bracket, what you just kind of talked about, that top side's looking pretty juicy. It's looking nice for, I think, one of the favorites in OpTic. That second matchup could be interesting, but, you have Thieves, FaZe, Surge kind of all down there dealing with each other. But for Breach, we didn't really talk about this because we didn't have the podcast last week, Clint, but I mean, they have the addition of Kremp. I think everyone was kind of surprised by this just because Vivid is a very fast player. Do you think this was just this hasn't been working? The formula hasn't been working. We're trying to make a change to to win, right?
Yeah, probably. I assumed because Kremp had played with Beans in that Boston Academy, I believe. So they had previous experience together. But yeah, I was pretty taken aback too because I do think Vivid brings that presence, especially in respawns that not a lot of players can bring.
He's quick, man.
But from what Kremp has shown, I think he'll be a good player. It's just like, they probably have to translate, going from Vivid to going to Krem. Then they're like two different players, and you're not going to get the same type of player. It's not a 1-for-1 switch, really. You're having to switch your entire like play style almost, So it's like they're probably just adjusting to that.
Yeah, still a dangerous team. Should be a very solid round 1 matchup between those two. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Next, we have New York versus Vegas. I think it's an interesting one.
I love this matchup.
I'm so happy for Vegas, bro.
Yeah, Vegas, they did it. And I just wanted to say this. This might be the first time we have a team who's 5-0, and then we have 4 teams who are 4-1. We've talked the last couple of majors. I mean, the last couple of games where it feels like there's maybe 6 to 7 teams who you could argue could win. Yeah. This might be the first time in a long time where I have this at like 4-3 right now. I mean, obviously, maybe you could argue some others, but it feels like it's very top heavy right now.
Yeah, I agree, but also like this game is so day to day that you just have to have a good weekend. So you could say that, but then you could also have someone make a crazy loser bracket one and then upset everyone. So you never know with this game, but yeah, I do think you're correct with that take. I would say that's a good take to have too.
It's so streaky right now. I'm like, if OpTic can maintain this hard point over the weekend, they'll win. If FaZe suddenly decide to win 50 to 60% of their hard points, they'll probably win the whole event. Like, it's just like, who can their off mode just get hot in a weekend, man? They might win it all.
Exactly.
Yeah, but both of these teams 4-1 online. The best online for New York this year record. Vegas finally starts in winners, and I mean, for Vegas, I just want to say the impact that Standy has had. We kind of talked about this roster. They just weren't packing a punch. I think in the sub duo, Ultra Drop, allow him to go. He's an unrestricted free agent, and they swooped in, right? And we had Clay on the podcast, and he kind of said, I loved playing with the team before, but if the opportunity arises with Standy, we just have to take that because we want to compete with the best.
Yeah.
And I mean, so far, so good. I know like their hard point was like 50%, but that's better than what it was. Their control is getting better, and it just feels like he has had such a high impact for them.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I like this matchup just because it's like, New York just had 2, disappointing performances at LAN, so they're fighting for something there. And then you have Vegas first time in winners bracket being like, we have something to show too. And then, if something arises and Vegas goes to losers bracket, Toronto's right there for another, rematch with Standy, right. And that's going to be, an absolute banger if that happens again.
Well, when we had Clay on, like, he was like, I was like, well, what was like your big goal, like with Legion, like joining them? Like, where are you gonna take him? And Joe said, like, is it just getting them to a champs? He's like, my first step's to get him to the fucking winners bracket. And like the fact that he was able to do it a couple weeks later, I don't know, it's cool. It's like you always want to root for the team that's been just asked for so long. It
would be a cool story, like if they make some sort of run and get points to make it to champs.
I would love it, bro. This race, I love it.
Oh well, they have the A seed I think right now, right? So or it's
I
pretty darn
close.
close.
They're super close with Minnesota. It might be
down 10 or something.
Yeah. It's 130-130, but they have the better map series percentage win, so they're currently A seed. So a big matchup here. But I guess for you guys, who you guys got taking this one between New York and Vegas?
I'm riding Vegas, baby.
Okay. Champs in Vegas. Maven's going Vegas.
I'll go Vegas for you too. I'll go Vegas.
You're thinking Vegas?
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll go New York then. Screw it. I'll go New York. We'll see.
Vegas storyline, honestly. I just love it.
Yeah, I just think
Clay was great on the podcast. I want to root for him, dude. Okay, you did a good job. I might root for him.
Okay, when we talk about sort of these smaller studio events, players have to create energy. Clay is the one guy who can do that, right? Like, he can create that energy. But then New York, you guys won it last year, right? Kismet was there. Hydra was there, so they're
have
to that.
I watched Crowder yawn after a 1v3. I don't know.
I would say that
I know because of
like when you go on the main stage with your intro, boom, the crowd's going. You're like, all right, it's time to party.
I get the same shit as commentators, bro. Like I hear it, it starts, I'm like, woo. Yeah.
Yeah, but like when you're in a studio arena, I think a lot of it's just in the comms, but that's where that energy really, really thrives off of. So
I'm gonna be tickling your butt, dude. Getting you ready to go.
Should be a great matchup. Can't wait for that. Up next we got LA Thieves versus Minnesota Rokkr. This was another rematch that we just saw yesterday.
Yesterday, actually, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of rematches in this winners round one from this previous weekend. LA Thieves smoked them. This is a very strong stage from LA Thieves, 4-1, and I will say I just want to give props to the sub duo because I think Envoy's had his moments. Kenny popped off versus Rokkr yesterday.
It feels like pubs. It feels like so.
Yeah, if we talked about Major 4 this time of the year with LAT. It's just a question of now can they put together a whole tournament?
Because this is actually like June, right? Like this is it's actually June, the old schedule. So it's like time for them to start clicking.
What, you guys both got these moving on this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say the one bright spot maybe for Rokkr, Camby's been playing a lot better. So hopefully he can keep that up. It feels like if he was stuck in a rut, he seems to be getting out of that.
Vance was just on the podcast. I want to pick them, but they just got choke slammed. So
okay. Yeah, got choke slammed. Up next, these two guys have just, I don't know, some of the most insane series in CDL history.
Ever.
This is a toss up for me because I just want to watch this match.
I just want to cast it, bro. I'm gonna fucking what series or what day? Like, give me that match, dude. I love that shit. We've casted so many bangers.
Yeah, since champs last year, Vanguard. I mean, this year in Raleigh, Surge and FaZe. They also just played. Surge just smoked them 3-0. Seattle are trying to bounce back from a disappointing Major 3. And what's interesting about it is Lamar is really stepping up during Ramadan. Like I don't know how he does it, but props to that guy.
No idea.
I mean,
but it must be super hard. But he's frying, so whatever he's doing, he's doing it pretty well.
I mean, Maven can't go 45 seconds without drinking water. So.
Well, it probably has gotten maybe easier the longer they've been together. Like they were young players, they're flying around, challenge stuff. Like he had to teach a lot. Like he's probably just able to play for now.
What, this stage?
No, just with this team as they've gone on over the years. Like he probably is has less of a.
I'd say that, but they've had a really disappointing couple of stages.
Yeah, but I feel like he's probably be able to focus more on himself now than he could a year ago.
Okay. And then FaZe. You could be wrong. We'll never know. That's why we just do this.
We'll have him on the episode soon.
Yeah. We're going to have Lamar on. He said he wants to do it. FaZe, I mean, they get 3-2. I think for FaZe I'm sure they want to play better, but I think as long as they're starting in the winner's bracket, they're probably okay with just about anything, right? Just get us to the LAN tournament. But 3-6 in hardpoint this stage in I don't know. A really disappointing stage from Slasher. He's got a 0.79 in hardpoint. And then I can't even believe I'm saying this. Simp had a 0.87 in hardpoint.
But Joe, in your career, you could probably say there are times where it's almost better to have a lot of deep series and lose and learn and struggle and then get to the major versus OpTic, who's just shit on everyone. And you go in with maybe a crazy amount of confidence. Sometimes, I mean, you could win both ways, but I just wouldn't be surprised if FaZe, they kind of grinded through it, got to winners, and then it clicks this weekend and they fry. It's just
but you said close series, bro. They got literally choke slammed by Surge yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah. But there's a lot of game fives.
Now you're playing
the two before that were game fives, weren't they? And they had 2 game 5 round 11s and shit.
They've had 3 game 5s this stage.
Yeah.
They lost
they
a
didn't
game
play
5
a lot,
in New York.
bro.
They went to game 5 with Florida. They had a game 5 with Rokkr. So it just feels like
it's not always the worst thing, is what I'm saying. I don't know. We'll see if they've learned and it applies this weekend, or if they just don't learn because they haven't learned how to play hardpoint since Cold War. So,
JP, for you guys are playing these guys. You're scrimming them once again. Well, OpTic is. I mean, how are scrims versus FaZe? No, not so much.
I mean, that was the narrative, but we only scrimmed them twice since after the major, because we didn't play them the stage. But it was just, we realized, or we had a discussion internally where we're like, is it going to benefit us? Like, are we, would scrimming them help them more than it would help us? And, they're obviously struggling in that mode. Do we want to, like, scrim them to somewhat give them sort of an advantage or maybe show them somehow, It was a really big discussion internally from us because it was like, this is a big decision because if they end up, doing well on hardpoint, that's
Could be on
a
us.
scary team. That's a super scary team.
I think it's fucking wild you guys didn't play for so long.
Do we know why this hasn't happened? Like what was the whole
I
narrative?
can tell you exactly why, but I'm gonna refrain from that. But yes.
Okay. We'll just say servers.
Because I was just brought in and they were like, okay, we don't scrim phase, and I was like, okay, whatever. But then we scrimmed after the major, and then we were like, oh wait, actually, you know what? Like, it wouldn't really benefit us right now at the moment. So we were like, we ended up deciding not to. So we've only scrimmed them, I think, twice since after the major.
Awesome. Well, I mean,
such a wild thing to me.
I mean, listen. Yeah, these guys. Yeah, there we go. There's the FaZe OpTic rivalry. Still lives on. I love it. Who you guys got winning this one?
Oh, dude, this is like you coin flip, bro.
Coin flip.
Like I think it's so hard to pick FaZe after the 3-0, but I feel like this is LAN. Like maybe Austin turns it around because he's like obviously had a disappointing stage. Maybe he was online. Maybe sound EQs got in his head, but I think once it goes to LAN, we'll see a little bit of a different FaZe.
They're going to be in the final. It's going to be OpTic FaZe in the final. FaZe will somehow be in a final.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right. So, and then as you kind of said, I think losers brackets, there's 3 down there. Really, we're not surprised by, right? Florida, London, and LAG. Those 3 teams just haven't been able to really put it together. But one team, maybe, I mean, I'm surprised by it, is Ultra. They just won the last major.
Mm-hmm.
I guess for you guys, was this a worrisome stage? For me, it's not. I mean, they lost 3 game 5s. That's, to me, like, at least you're still competing with teams, but
yeah,
going 1-4.
We saw, like, I don't know, Seattle do that type of shit for years. Thieves, like, just like a win or a second or something, and then fall off. Like, I don't know. It just happens. Probably something to do with like the titles we've had lately, and also probably I'm sure there's some sort of we won this bitch. You've got some young players. You're celebrating it. Maybe the foot's off the gas a little bit, even if you don't like even realize it is. But I'm not like worried about them for the rest of the year. No. Sure, it's disappointing, but I'm not worried now.
No, I completely agree. We don't know what it is, but it's back to LAN. Anything could happen with them. They could make a crazy loser bracket run.
100%.
Yeah, and I didn't even see this, but I mean, at least your respawns are still solid. They're 6-3 in hardpoint throughout the stage, 3-2 in control. They were 1-7 in search, so there's an obvious working point that they have to work on.
That's interesting too. After
bounce back.
After talking to Hicksy and like how much they put into like beating FaZe and search and like finding the gaps and like it's just kind of wild. Then after that they just
what happens when you win, right? You're under the microscope. That's it.
Yep.
That's what happens when you win. Everybody's looking at you. How do we counter their strats? What are they doing? And they're gonna have to make some adjustments for that. The scary thing for them or the other team is, OpTic in Boston, you play the loser of that. Like, that's a very tough loser round 1 matchup right away. And I think that's where you can build momentum up and potentially, I mean, we've seen it now. Multiple teams go from losers round 1 to
it happens like every
finals.
event. It feels like nowadays, bro. Like,
but it starts with a match like this. You would have to feel like,
no, it starts with a big match like that, and then you just ride the wave. Like, you're now facing teams that are losing.
More.
Yeah, you're playing more. You're now facing teams that are losing or coming off a loss, or you're playing twice in a day. Like, anything can happen in those waves where you're just constantly winning, and then next thing you know, you're in grand finals.
So I think like FaZe or Surge is like a really just big threat to be that team. Like they have that tough matchup. One's going to losers right away. That team is making a run, or what they could. Like I just think that's going to be maybe the story. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. That's gonna do it. So Major 4 starts this Thursday. Tune in, build out your brackets. It should be another great to win the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you kind of have to go OpTic right now, just like the way everyone's kind of talking about it.
But is that the first time you felt that way in nearly 3 years? Because it is for me.
Yeah, I mean, they're winning hard points by
is.
getting outslayed. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
the last time I said that about an OpTic team.
Even if like FaZe didn't have the best like online leg over the past like couple of years, like they were still my favorite to win because it was FaZe. You knew if they clicked, you knew what they were capable of. Like they'd be in a final, they might win it. This is the first time where I'm like, I feel stupid not picking OpTic. Like, I feel like I have to. Like, I just feel like I have to. I don't think I felt that way in 3 years.
I think there's arguments for potentially, an LA Thieves, a Seattle FaZe. I think those are.
Oh yeah, for sure.
New York has won an event,
I mean? Like,
but
like,
yeah, the favorite right now. Yeah, I mean, it's not only sort of them going 5-0 because I think OpTic has had some great online, splits throughout the years. Doing it. But it's the way like even other pros are talking about it. Like everyone just kind of knows they're playing with a certain swagger, and
it's all JP, bro.
No, it's definitely not on me.
Yeah, JP's got the gunny. JP has the gunny. It's just like it's just everyone else kind of knows they're a step ahead. Like they understand the game right now at a very high level.
But like I'm partially like not like worried, but like this is the first time they've kind of OpTic's been this in a long time. Like clicking, playing well, the favorite, like clearly. I don't know. It's just a different mindset going in. It could be amazing, and the confidence is there, they shit on everyone. Or it's like, it's like those. Remember those years ago where like the online matches, all those scump and formal teams, they shit on everyone in the 2Ks, and they go to the first event and get fucking bopped on Friday because it was like, oh, like sometimes just the confidence can be a bad thing, but that's where JP keep them level headed, keep them on the grind.
No doubt about it. And I think this is where like someone like Ghosty comes in who wants to have a
hungry
much better. Yeah. And when you talk about a comms guy and creating energy, because if there's a team that is looking forward to the crowd and really gives them the energy on stage, is OpTic, right? So that is like maybe like a worry for me, but because Ghosty seems to be there, like I think he'll get them focused.
Much we've heard that lately from like more veteran players, like they're bringing in the young guy. It's like just like saving everything, like just their energy, their desire, their drive. Like there's just like it solves problems, bro. I love it.
The passion.
Yeah.
They're not used to salary. They're used to grinding out challenger wins. You
lazy fuck. Let's go.
Like.
Before we say goodbye to JP, thank you again for coming on. But we do have some community questions, just a couple before we let you go.
Sure.
This one is from Armac. He wants to know how important is a game plan versus in-game adjustments.
So I would say the game plan is like, obviously it's all going to be in-game adjustments. The game plan is going to be like you're going into it with some sort of plan, but it's not end all be all. Like you can't go into a game having the plan and expecting to stick with it. It could be the basis of what you want to do, but everything is all adjustments. You're expecting the team, your opponent to do something, but you can't, that you don't know if it's going to happen, and it probably won't happen, but you have some sort of basis that you want to build off of. It's all adjustments. Like nowadays, like S&D is all mid-round adjustments. Like you can break off with a strat. There's some, break off strats where you just hit something and it's that's the strat. But a lot of it's just, playing info and working based off of that. So it's not like, you can build off tendencies and create a game plan, but it's definitely not the end all be all. Like the adjustment is where you win the game.
When you're always going to have a hard point, like, just from a Cold War to this, it is very, like we talked about earlier, quite different.
Yeah, when you're going up on stage, like in between maps, are you giving them like specific stats to like look out for, like things that you highlighted?
No stats, just tendencies, if anything, but just like more so focusing on our game, like, make sure we're doing this, like, we talked about this, final little reminders, nothing too overbearing. And no stats, for sure, no stats, because they're not remembering.
Shotzy, you spent 2.5 minutes in the water. I want you to get that up to 3.5 in the next hydro if you can. Thank you.
That would check him. So I don't think I would ever say that.
Well, I more meant like, this team goes this site 75% of the time type thing.
Say that more tendency based, but if anything, it just something like that. Obviously, I'm not bringing numbers, but it's like
simple little highlights
here on their breakoffs, or yes. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. This one is from Closed2316. His name is Money Mo, so shout out Money Mo. He wants to know, and we kind of just talked about this, like, what does it mean when they say your team has been looking very good? Does it mean they're not dropping maps or that they're learning a lot? Like, what, I guess, does that kind of say? I would assume if other pros are talking about it, he means you guys are frying
Yeah,
in your scrims.
but yeah, you could say we're frying, but it's like the manner in which we're winning too. Like sometimes, again, it's like we're winning and getting outslayed, or we're just doing things completely, to what we discussed or our game plan. Like it just making that whole game of hardpoint specifically like second nature, where we know, we know how to play it. But if we can execute it like this every single time we scrim it, it's going to become second nature when we go to a tournament and play, or a match. So yeah, it's mostly just sticking to the game plan where we're working together at all costs, pretty much.
Did you see like your stats are one thing, fans saying stuff is one thing. You're right. It's like the Pierce thing. I was talking to Joe about like the stuff that popped up yesterday with like Mello, bro. How like Paul Pierce says like the hardest person to defend. Then it brought up Kobe saying that. Then I was just seeing Mello clips, and I went and watched Mello play like all these whole games. That guy, I forgot how fucking disgusting he was. But the point is like, yeah, but it's coming from the peers, dude, and they're showing that respect. It's usually different. But dude, go watch. I like forgot he was 9th all time scoring. Like he was a fucking freak, bro.
How did you even just connect your mind to that?
Oh, the peer thing. Gotta have like the players are gassed them like that. Just kind of happened with Mello. That's why it all popped up. My brain's a weird place, and Mello's
a wonderful place. Well, Maven, I'll see you in a couple of days. JP, safe travels. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. No, this is awesome. I fucking love this. Like, this is great.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you very much for taking the time. Because we know you got to pack and travel tomorh.
Yeah,
he's an optic, dude. I'm surprised he came on.
Yeah, it's not like I'm traveling first class or anything.
Yeah, because you have your own jet, bitch.
Yeah, I have my own jet, singular jet.
That'd be something. That'd be something. Maeve, take us away, brother.
Thank you again. You were amazing, Joe. You were fantastic as always. My dogs are still alive, and I hope that everyone goes and enjoys delicious tacos, has sexual intercourse with their loved one, and has a great evening of sleep. Farewell.